The people you can see behind me are among Asia's most powerful corporate leaders. They are the heads of South Korea's biggest companies, and they've all been testifying in front of a parliamentary panel looking into the country's worst political scandal in decades. They say that they didn't seek favors when they made contributions to two foundations linked to the country's President Park Geun-hye. Our Azhar Sukri has more.
South Korea's corporate titans, once seemingly untouchable, forced to hear for themselves the anger that's sweeping their country. One by one, the heads of Samsung, Hyundai, Lotte Group and others walked past media and protesters to testify in front of a parliamentary committee. It's the first time in South Korean history that the heads of so many conglomerates, or chaebols, have come together for a public hearing of this sort. Together, their companies are valued at about a third the size of the country's GDP. The panel is part of an investigation into whether these companies and dozens more received political favors from the government of President Park Geun-hye in return for donations to two non-profit foundations linked to Park.
There are often requests from various parts of society, including culture and sports. We have never contributed to them, seeking quid pro quo. It was the same in this case.
South Koreans have staged massive protests ever since media reports emerged in October that a close advisor to Park had allegedly sought millions of dollars from major corporations. Prosecutors say Samsung made the biggest donations of nearly $18 million. In return, they say the government helped push through an $8 billion merger between two of Samsung's units. Park apologized later in October, paving the way for a parliamentary vote on whether to impeach her. Her approval ratings have plunged since then, and so have the share prices of South Korea's biggest companies. The Kospi Composite Share Index remains near the 6-month lows it fell to after Park's apology. The scandal has hit Samsung during a particularly bad year. It's been forced to recall a flagship new smartphone after batteries caught fire. Its chief promised that the company wouldn't get caught up again in political upheaval.
We've made people concerned and worried because of this case, and I'm very well aware of that. I came here with a heavy heart. I will make sure to be thorough to prevent any involvement in a shameful scandal in the future.
South Korea's company leaders now have to try to convince many other people that they will improve their stewardship of the nation's crown jewels. Azhar Sukri, TRT World.
All right, to shed some more light on this unprecedented parliamentary hearing and what it means, our senior business producer, Azhar Sukri, joins me on set. Azhar, I'm a bit confused here. You have the head of Samsung saying that they gave money to good causes. They're calling it corporate sponsorship, but to others, it's outright corruption. Where's the line here?
It depends how you look at it. It can be a fine line in some respects. I mean, look, companies do this all the time. And you look at Formula One, you look at football, you see it plastered with, corporate sponsorship all over the place. The point at which it gets problematic, though, is when this money goes to political organisations, and there is even a hint that they may have gotten favours in return. In this case, for example, the case of the two Samsung units that were merged last year. But look, let's look at this in a bit of historical and geographical context. South Korea has come an awfully long way in a relatively short period of time. Just go back about a generation ago, South Korea was a military dictatorship. Today, it has at least got these institutions that can provide checks and balances. You've got a population that is aware of these kinds of issues. When you look across the region, I've spent a lot of time in Malaysia, for example, which is facing an enormous corporate political scandal with the 1MDB issue. You do not see any hint of the ruling elite in Malaysia facing the same kind of scrutiny that South Korea is facing today. So the point I'm trying to make is that there are institutions in place. And even when we just look back at the US elections that we've just had, you know, those allegations of pay for play in the Hillary Clinton campaign. She was throwing accusations at Donald Trump for taking favors from all sorts of lobby groups within the Washington, D.C. Beltway. So this stuff happens, but South Korea has come a long way.
All right, Azhar, thank you very much for coming on set and explaining this to us.